What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Daily Refinement. I'm super excited. This is episode number 1 of 48, where I try to build a $1,000 income starting from zero. The one advantage is I've already done this several times before, so I should be able to do it for you guys in the next 12 weeks, and you can follow along by hitting that like button or that subscribe button. And if you find this useful, please share it with your friends, because I do believe you can start with virtually no money. I want to add a little bit of a disclaimer, because someone put, you recommended that you start with $5,000. I do recommend that you start with $5,000, because when you see a good opportunity, you want to be able to buy it. But that being said, you do not need any money to start, and that person is just looking for an excuse to not even try. So don't be that person. You do not need $5,000. It helps if you have a little bit of extra capital, but you can just start with selling stuff around the house. This episode is week 1 of a 12-week series where you list 4 times a week. So I'm going to list Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I was going to list on Saturday, but that is fiance day, so I'm not going to mess with Saturday. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, there will be a video update. The first week, you just list $10 profit a day. There's no excuse to not start with that. And each week, it gets progressively harder, just like marathon training. So this week will be 10, next week will be 20, the next week will be 40, all the way up to $250 a day, 4 times a week. That is $1,000 per week income if you're selling the same as your listing, which is another episode. But at the very basics, you need to be able to list $1,000 worth of profit a week if you want to earn $1,000 worth of profit a week. And also another caveat, if you sell replenishable items, this is much easier, meaning you can just get the same item that sells over and over again versus just finding random items. But this is very much a beginner's guide, and I'm going to show you guys how to get started with nothing. This episode is super powerful, but I want to give you guys, it's not going to be that entertaining because there is some planning required to get started. So this episode is sort of the fundamentals. I asked my YouTube audience and my Instagram audience sort of the basic things you need to know to get started. And I'll tell you this, veterans are just better at these things than beginners. It's the same thing. You don't need to buy any guides or courses. What I'm about to tell you in this episode is the framework for getting started, and it's what keeps people on track to learning the skills they need to actually make it. So let's get straight into it. The first tip is don't just stand there, do something, followed by don't just do something, stand there and think for a second. So create a plan. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan, but do a little bit of thinking and a little bit of planning. Don't just jump straight in. I'll give you guys some parameters to sort of narrow down the best use of your attention. So the next thing is, once you have sort of a basic plan, meaning like how much space do you want to dedicate to this? How much money do you want to start with it? Do you truly have no capital? Start journaling and writing down what you think your plan is going to look like. Second, pick a goal. So this is the goal that I'm going to present to you guys today, which is Jay Leno's saving strategy. Get 2 streams of income, live off of one, invest the larger one. So I'm actually at an advantage because I already have other income streams. But for the sake of this exercise, we're going to try to build this reselling business to $1,000 a week net and consider that your job. So if you can do that first, then after that, you can live off of this $1,000 per week income, which should be more than enough for you to get by. And unless you live in California, and the rest of it on top of that, reinvest into this secondary income and let that go. So 2 incomes is the goal for this particular exercise. Okay, so number 3. Now that we have this goal, you need to determine what your overhead is. So this is really important, and you need to do this in order to make your reselling business go, because what kills a lot of resale businesses is not being able to reinvest money back into it. So you need to know what your overhead is. And I realize I am at a huge advantage because I share health insurance with my spouse at work, right? So I pay less. I only pay $130 a month versus $300 if I was completely solo. I don't have any car bills because I have multiple rental cars that cover the cost of my everyday car. So my car bills are essentially negated. It's like a form of car hacking. So I don't have any car expenses. And then I also share my housing expense. And so that makes it a lot easier for me to actually live in California. But that being said, depending on where you live, I think you can cut down to between $1,000 and $2,000 per person where you live. This is important because you need to have that taken care of, because if you don't, you'll be constantly be using business money to cover personal bills and you won't be able to make this work. So especially if you are living at home and you have your basic bills paid by your parents. This is a great place to write down exactly how much you're spending each month and make sure that you can figure out that type of income, ideally from a job, so that you can reinvest all the profits into this growing adventure. Okay, the next is step number 4, small steps. You can't improve all of it at the same time. You can only do one tiny thing per day. So it's really important to journal and write down what those improvements are so you can see the momentum building, because you won't see it building when you just start, because it'll be sort of insignificant. Like you got a backdrop for your photos, or you got a smartphone finally, or just these little things that don't add up in anything, but over time they turn into something really powerful. You need to make sure the momentum continues to go. Okay, step number 5, when you're just getting started, trade your time for money. Okay, so this is trade your time for money, build skills, trade your skills for money, then you use that money to start reselling as in a form of investment. It's the cheapest form of investment, is buying something and then flipping it for more. This is a pair of shoes I purchased today, a pair of Skechers. I'm going to go over exactly how I figured out why to buy this in the end of this video, so you guys should definitely hang out and get through these steps. Sorry, it's a little bit boring, but this stuff is really important because you need to have it in place if you want to start a resale business. And I'll go over how I was able to find this pair of shoes and how I was able to get a good deal and what I did to actually figure out if it was worth buying or not. Okay, next is step number 6. You want to invest your time into a long-term skill. Okay, so the best resellers have a long-term vision for this. I'll tell you what I'm investing my time in for this example. My investment is into flipping shoes. Shoes, in my opinion, is a 6-figure income with just you and one helper. There's a lot of people I know that earn 6 figures or more with just one assistant, either husband and wife team or 2 people hunting. It's really, really great to build a shoe hustle that nets probably $100K a year with 2 people. So that is a skill. It's like a job. It's a profession. I'm going to be investing my time into that, so I always have that as sort of my backup plan. Consider it a PhD in shoe flipping, and you can earn a great professional level income in the shoe game. Okay, the next one is step number 7. Read only relevant information. So I'm not going to be researching philosophy or how to flip houses. Right now, my focus is in the next 12 weeks, how do I become a professional shoe flipper? I'm only going to read information related to this because the other information is not important right now. This is the key. Focus on one thing until you get there. And I always talk about, if you can make this into at least $100 a day thing, right, then you add 2 more of those, and with 3, you have a 6-figure income as well. So that's the objective. Take one category all the way there. As we are starting this, I will sell other stuff because the opportunity will be there, but I'm investing time into getting really good at shoe flipping. Okay, the next is college. So people are asking, like, should I pay for courses? Should I pay for whatever, mentoring? And here's the basic answer. You don't need to. It's not required for reselling. And how I look at it is college is sort of the cost of a, let's say it's a tool. So it might cost $100,000 to get a tool to be able to do computer programming for a living right now. It's a hot occupation. So let's say it's a hammer, because a hammer is a tool. You're buying a $100,000 hammer. Will it help you do your job of being a computer programmer? Definitely. It's definitely important. You could also go to a boot camp where they 6 months in a row, they just flood your brain with programming, and then they put you into a job. That's more like a trade school. Trade schools are really huge right now, but there's a lot of younger people watching my channel, and I'm saying, before you go into college, think about it as a tool, and what are you going to use it for? There's a lot of people who have a $100,000 hammer that doesn't apply to what they're doing, and they end up being in a really tough financial situation. Although that being said, I know plenty of resellers who have paid off $40,000, $50,000, up to $70,000 in student loan debt by flipping stuff. Shout out to the college picker. He was able to do that while working and reselling. He paid off $70,000 in student loans in just a few years. So it can definitely be done. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't get beat up. But again, you don't need to invest in anything, but I recommend if you are, it should be related. So if you want to buy a course or a guide or something related to the occupation you pick, I say go for it. But again, weigh the pros and cons, and most information is available free now on the internet. If you can think of it, someone's probably already done it. So just look for people who've already done what you're looking for and surround yourself with those people. Okay. Next is sell things that you own. I am going to sell this Poshmark hat. That's going to be my first personal item that I throw up onto the internet. And also, this is something I thrifted earlier, and I'm going to go over how I did that in just a second. Okay. Number 10 is sell things people need, not things people want. So if you pick up like a vintage fox skull, that's not something that people need. That's definitely something people want. It's very, very random. Even if you bought it for $1 and they're potentially worth 400, how many people really need a fox skull? Not too many, so that may not be a great market. But shoes, people need shoes. People need shoes for work, for sports, for their for a special occasion. They actually need this product, so I recommend picking a category that people actually need, not just want. Okay, next thing is sell at a price point that the majority of people can afford. So I did a report on the top eBay stores in the country, and the average ASP, which is the average selling price, is actually $20. Okay, so this is a price point most people can afford and buy something and not really care if it's fake or if it doesn't work properly. They can basically dispose of it if it doesn't work well. $20 is sort of that number. Now, when you start moving higher and higher into the eBay echelon, you might come across like a gentleman that runs E04 City, right? This is one of the largest eBay stores. If you go on to Terapeak and Zik Analytics, which are two tools that I use to research products, you'll see this person, or this company rather, is selling thousands of items per day, okay, at $7 average price. And this is inclusive of shipping, right? That's incredibly cheap, right? So you have to do some serious volume in order to make that work. It's just something to consider, right? The lower the price point, the more demand you're going to have usually, because right now it's sort of a depressed market. Cheap usually always sells. There's a reason that Walmart does so well, because they're usually the low price leader. That's very, very important to consumers. If you only sell expensive stuff, you may run into a cash flow problem. This is just something to consider as you're growing and learning replenishables. It's much easier to sell coconut oil than rare pineapple oil for $97 an ounce, right? That has a very small amount of customers looking for it, but tons and millions of people use coconut oil to cook. So pick something with a larger market. Okay. The next is recycle cans. This is something that came up multiple times, so I just wanted to bring it up. If you have zero money, recycling is a great way to earn some extra money. And also, the people who recycle cans often have things that they can't recycle, so you can go there and pick it up and then flip those things. I actually haven't tried this one, but it came up 4 or 5 times, so I just wanted to add it into the guide so if other people can use recycling as a way to earn capital in the beginning. Okay, next is try to avoid borrowing money, and this is something that's really, really, really amazing. So I was just looking at, just the difference of, let's just say you earn 5% on your money, and then you do the same calculator where you're paying 5% in interest. When you look at that over the course of a few years, the difference is insane. It's exponential, but in the negative direction versus the positive direction. So try to avoid borrowing money if you can. Live as frugally as possible. I didn't understand this when I first started earning a lot of money. So I really want you guys to avoid borrowing money, especially when you get tempted by stuff like working capital loans that come from PayPal, or maybe you get approached by a small business lender because your business is starting to grow. Just think about the cost of borrowing that money, because you have to pay back that money. You're personally guaranteeing it most likely. So just be careful. It might be better to grow slowly over time, because for me, as I've built different projects, the ones that took longer to build up are more stable. So just keep that in mind. Try not to borrow money if you can. The next is number 15 and number 14 are always have the Craigslist free section up, and always have the offer up app up for closest to you. You want to be able to hop on deals right away and be able to take advantage of stuff, especially when you're beginning. So I'm going to create the habit of trying to get or attempt to get one Craigslist free item per day. Today I tried to get a free guitar. It wasn't working. The person put as is, but it was near me, and I messaged them saying, hey, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. Is there anything else that I can help you donate or dispose of? I appreciate the opportunity. The person didn't actually reach back, but I'm going to start actively trying to get people to give me their stuff on the free section by just saying, let me provide the service of picking up this item. Please give me some stuff to sell so I can get my entrepreneurship career started. And you're providing a service, you're trading a service for potential capital in that item that they give you. I think this is a huge hack. I would not be surprised if in the next 12 weeks somebody gives me something really valuable for free. But let's find out. Let's just be consistent with it and at least try to get one free item a day and offer up. You want to search what's closest to you because usually first come, first serve. You can find that deal really local. Hey, I'm just down the street. I'll come get it from you. Sounds amazing. Okay, next is try to buy things that sell for at least $40. This is one of my favorite tips. Okay, so the reason why $40, and people say, Chris, why don't you buy something that sells for $15 if you buy it for $1? This is the reason. The reason is you want to be able to discount it and get your money back in case you need it. Okay, so an item that sells for $15, sometimes you could discount that item to 99 cents and it still won't sell because it doesn't have that much demand to begin with because it's only worth $15. And items that are that cheap also have a lot of competition because a lot of people are just selling junk around their house, and you're competing against people who count their cost of goods as zero. So it's very difficult. But a $40 item, most people are not giving away a $40 item. If you follow Craigslist Hunter, I am going to be doing a video on how I think that he presents want ads. So he puts out a series of ads and people bring goods to him. I'm going to try to reverse engineer that and put it into a video for you guys. But he made a really good point, which is people usually donate stuff that's worth less than $30, right? So you want to stay out of that category if you can, because you can't discount it to get rid of it. But a $40 item, as long as you pay, according to my model, $5 or $10 or less for a $40 item, you can always discount it to $17 to $20 and get your capital back right away if you need to. But if you buy an item that's too cheap, you will not be able to get out of it quickly. It has no quick cash value. So that's the reason why, if you're beginning, I recommend you have a much smaller inventory of $40 or more. You can do cheaper stuff once you grow and get the hang of it and you have some volume and some velocity. But the worst thing that can happen to you is have a gigantic store of really, really cheap stuff that sells really slowly, that will stifle you, take up a lot of space, and give you a headache, and you won't have any space in your brain to operate. Okay, next is don't just pick great brands. So I'm gonna put in a little bit in the later part of this video some pictures of some Nikes that I passed on. So I went to the store. There were 2 pairs of Nikes that were right on the cusp of being able to buy. So I'll give you an example. One, they were both 11 bucks. One was selling for $40, a pair of running shoes. Now this is $40 shipped, and none had sold in the last 90 days. But there were 2 or 3 available, and they were priced significantly higher. And the other colorways sold for about $40. So could this item sell for $40? Probably. But I did not want to pay $11 to flip it for $40. Too small of a margin because shoes are expensive to ship. So I decided to pass on that pair of Nikes. The other pair of Nikes, this is something kind of interesting. There were 10 pairs available in the market and 20 sold in the last 90 days. Hot shoe, Hyperdunk, Nike, great colorway, black, but it was selling for $35 shipped, right? So you could buy it for 11, you list it for 35 shipped, that's the market. It will sell quickly, probably because it's a great basketball shoe, great colorway, and it's popular, so it should sell right away. But again, the margin is really small. So that is a challenge because you're doing the same amount of work. You might want to invest that time into a higher profit item. Okay, so avoid just buying a great brand because you think it's going to sell. The next example was I went and looked at the electronics. There was a Sony CD player, and it sells for between $40 and $50, and it was on sale for $10. Now, the reason why I did not pick up this electronic was because of the fragile nature of it. I would have to spend more time packing the item to make sure it did not break. But this again is a great brand. It would have sold for at least $40 and met that $15 profit requirement that I'm trying to do. But the reason why I passed on, again, it could break during transit and you would lose the shipping and the cost of the item. So I did not want to take that risk. you usually want a little bit more profit margin if you're going to aim for that, because it takes more time to pack the item, more time to describe it. And also, I noticed right away that I did not know if it was working or not. So I'd have to take it into the store to the section where you plug it in to see if it works. You'd have to put a CD into it to see if the CD works. You have to see if both speakers are working. You'd have to see if all the buttons were working. And again, not a big enough payoff. Now, if it was a boombox, right? I just sold one earlier this year for $300. That's worth the risk, even if it's not, if you can't test it at that point, because you don't have the big D batteries that fit into it, right? So that would be worth the risk because the payoff would be large enough that it would be worth it. So just something to consider. Great brands don't always equate to home runs. Okay, the next thing is, this is the key. We're almost done, guys. This is tip number 19. Always ask the manager if they have other stuff in the back that fits your needs. So what I said was, hey, it looks like there's a lot of great shoes. Thank you. Is it possible for you to check the back real quick and see if there are any shoes that are available? I'm specifically looking for sneakers and dress shoes and anything that looks kind of funky I'm interested in. I would be willing to pay the extra because sometimes you guys mark up nicer shoes more, but I'm already here. Do you mind checking for me? Also, I don't want to rule out kids shoes. And this is I think is a pro tip. And the reason why I don't rule out kids shoes is because kids shoes are often miscategorized. Women's shoes are sometimes considered kids shoes. And this is one example. This is the Skechers Shape Up. It looks like a kid's shoe because it's got a funky design, though it wouldn't seem like something maybe a lady would wear, but it is in fact a women's shoe. So she was like, oh yeah, we didn't have too many adult shoes, but we have these kids shoes. So I said, great, I'll take them. So not only did I get these shoes for $5, but they were rung up as a kid's shoe. And the manager was like, thank you so much for asking, because we just have so much inventory right now during spring cleaning, and it's great to get some of this stuff out of here. So she appreciated me asking for this. And the reason why I picked up this pair of shoes is Skechers Shape Up sell very well. They have a very, very high amount of items in the solds, over 200 in this specific style. And black is a safe color. Black and white, in my opinion, are the easiest colors to sell for sneakers. It's in exceptional condition. There's no, if you do the bend test, the shoe doesn't bend at all, which means that the structure of the shoe is still intact. With some basic cleaning, I can get this shoe to a 9 out of 10, and I am going to ask $39.99 plus shipping or best offer, and I'm going to list it on every single site to try to sell this. That leads me to one of the final tips, which is when you have limited money, you want to sell your items faster. That's all you can do since you can't buy more inventory. So you can list on multiple platforms. I'm going to list on eBay, Facebook, Poshmark, Mercari, and let's see, eBay, Mercari, OfferUp, Poshmark, and Facebook Marketplace. 5 platforms to try to sell these as soon as possible. You guys can follow along. I created an eBay account called Reseller Field Guide. I will link that in the description below so if you guys can follow that store, because there's a lot of people saying, oh, well, you don't share all your eBay stores, you're fake. Well, I don't recommend that you share your eBay store. In fact, I recommend, if you're doing this for a living, to hide your solds, because I don't want people copying what's selling well for you. So in my replenishable stores where I'm purchasing items that I resell, I would never share those stores, because why would I want people to sell the exact same thing as me and ruin my own market? Now, in these one-off stores, sometimes I will share to give you guys an idea, but now I have a brand new store where all I do is share this exact journey, and I'm in a position to never take the money out. So I'm very excited to see what happens after 48 episodes of this, to see what happens when you keep reinvesting into something and never take any money out. And this is kind of a crazy concept, but I'm really considering doing this series for 10 years. I know that sounds really crazy and maybe dumb, but I would like to see what happens. Like, if you invest into an account for 10 years and never take the money out, what happens to it? And you know, it's my side gig because I already resell for a living. This project, Reseller Field Guide, as I continue to grow, since I don't have a lot of extra time like many of you, I am going to have to start buying more and more and more expensive stuff. So I'm excited to see what happens, you know, once I have, let's say, $5,000 in the account, which is the goal. My goal is to go from $0 and in 48 weeks, 3 months, have at least 5 grand in there, starting with pretty much nothing. Pretty much nothing, I consider a couple $100 that I might invest in the inventory. Hopefully less than that, so the haters don't have a field day and say, well, not everybody has $200. I don't know what to say, but again, I recommend you have up to 5 grand. So when you see a really good deal, you can capitalize on it. But I'm excited to see what happens. Maybe I can start flipping cars. I can start flipping furniture, stuff to really get going. Because again, when you have limited time, you should sell things that are really expensive or invest into a niche where you can grow over time. And for me specifically, I enjoy shoes. As you've heard in some of my other videos, I like shoes more than most people. So if you guys enjoy this journey and you want to follow along, please subscribe and smash that like button. But again, I'm going to be doing this show Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And if you want to get a copy of the Reseller Field Guide to download, you can watch the video below, which is free. The free version of the guide is just to watch, and you don't need to buy it. Again, that's just something to help me make this channel, because it does take me a lot of time. It took me about 4 hours, because I'm not that efficient, to put together this list of 20 things that I think would be really, really beneficial for the beginner. So I appreciate everyone's time. Hope you have a great week. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.